Hey and welcome, I'm Hammy, and with the most recent PTR updates there are changes to Horizon Lunar Colony. Now, as well as the gameplay changes, there are a few little tidbits of lore in there, which may cause us to ask some questions. Could Hammond be anything to do with Hero 28, and are these changes pointing to them? In this video I'm going to quickly round up the PTR changes, as well as having a look at the lore that we now learn, and a little bit of speculation at the end, as well as my thoughts on what we might see from this in future. Timecode's in the description if you want to skip. Okay, alongside the much fabled Symmetra rework, and you can see a lot of footage of me having fun with her and her new teleporters on Horizon here, Horizon Lunar Colony has been a map that several people in Overwatch haven't enjoyed too much since it was introduced last year. The highly open nature of Point A with a lot of wide sight lines meant that if you managed to get a pick and actually snowball in, it could be very easily capped fast. Attackers would then have frustration on Point B due to the short distance from the Point B respawn to the actual point and the ability to trickle in, meaning that defenders could stall it out for quite a long period of time. Accidentally shared to the PTR a while ago and now confirmed in this PTR, we can see the changes in the map. Very long story short, as you can see from these, there's more cover around Point A. They have removed the two lower outside flanking routes. You can still go through space, but not through the two lower chambers on either side. This forces attacking teams up and through a more narrow area around the point, and there's additional cover added to the upper gantries around the walkway. A few less directions for Widowmakers to pop shots through, although they'll still be able to put pressure on the point, and attacking teams are going to be forced a little bit more down a bit of a choke when it comes to taking a right route, a left route, or a centre route, without having the additional side routes to go around as well. The defensive high ground cover will make it slightly less risky if you want to start up there as the defence, and means that you at least have some opportunity to retreat rather than being dived on the walkway, although that's still possible. Point B also sees more defensive options on the high ground with a new higher ground area added to the left of the back of the room. There's also some tactically placed trees in between A and B which will obscure both Widowmaker's sight lines and vision outwards for the attack and for the defence, with more additional high ground cover as well as a less direct defensive spawn route to B that will take a little bit more time to navigate. This should mean that Point B attacking should feel a bit better for the attacking team, whilst giving the defensive team a few more options to take cover in. The biggest change is a lore addition to the map, and we get Hammond's room, Subject 8 as we know him to be from the screens at the very beginning in the attacker spawn. One of the rooms that was previously blocked up with junk next to Winston's room has been opened, and we can see where Hammond was living. So just to reprise, if you didn't get caught up in the flurry of excitement around Horizon last year and Hammond, what do we actually know about this figure? Well, screens in the colony said that Hammond was missing for a week. Why was he not returned? How could one of the test subjects on the base go missing for a week? We don't quite know. He's named as being a smaller subject, which has led many people to wonder if he was a chimpanzee. Because there are no other animal types mentioned in the emails that we've seen, Winston's bio mentions gorillas specifically. We also know that Hammond potentially escaped into the vents. There are sounds in the vents mentioned in various emails, and we see in the second attacking spawn for attacking Point B, along with the various suits of the scientists, that there is a mysterious hole in the air vents along with footprints leading up towards it. And going back to Hammond's room, we have a little bit more evidence, as well as toys, banana peels and half-eaten carrots. A rabbit hero confirmed. I'm only joking. We do see some plans of Winston getting into a pod, the emergency escape pod that we see hung up in Watchpoint Gibraltar, nonetheless. Also, not far away, there is a little hypothetical model of a toy rocket and a toy pod hooked together, as well as some post-it notes detailing getting from the moon to the Earth, as well as how this pod could perhaps attach onto Winston's escape module. In what may have been Hammond's sleeping area, we see that it's partially open, also with a vent cover removed that may perhaps, who knows, lead into the base's air vent system. So there we have it, a few more little teasers and certainly a room for Hammond. Now, Hammond speculation has gone rife with this, as you can imagine. Some people are speculating, what has Hammond done? Has he managed to hitch his way back to Earth with Winston, for example? Why would he not sort of try and travel with Winston, perhaps? So let's have a little bit of a think about all this kind of speculation, and then think about how likely it is that Hammond is Hero 28, because of course it is that time of year coming up again. A new hero is probably due in July at some point, or whether it's perhaps not so likely, but Hammond could still be used to tell some more Overwatch story, perhaps in the reveal of Hero 28. So for this thought of a few people have mentioned in comments and things that Hammond isn't sort of smart enough to make the kind of things that Winston makes. Well, Hammond we know is a lot smaller. Physically he might not be capable. We already know that he's kind of perhaps gone on the run, as it were. He escaped his quarters and has maybe been sort of hanging out and surviving, perhaps. Now it's complete headcanon, but I don't think Hammond is really that lack of smart. But if he's less physically capable, then if you look at the size of some of the gorillas who are running around, or who were running around the colony. Clearly Winston, at the time he was able to escape, was physically big enough to perhaps deal with them, to perhaps defend himself and similar, depending on what actually happened. Now, of course, Hammond, being a smaller creature, maybe he might not have been able to do so. Maybe he needed to hide out or something like that. However, there is the question of why Winston didn't perhaps take Hammond with him or something like that. What were the relations like between the two? Did they get on? Did they not get on? Clearly Hammond is able to write if he's drawing diagrams and things here, so he's clearly pretty intelligent, the same way that Winston and indeed a lot of the other gorillas are. Although Winston, of course, was the most intelligent, we do have Hammond being able to write here. Or if he drew the diagram of latching this sort of escape pod perhaps onto Winston's pod, then he's certainly able to draw diagrams, so he's definitely not stupid. Let's say, for example, in the realms of headcanon speculation while we're here, that Hammond did somehow manage to escape the lunar colony with Winston. Well, what has he been up to on Earth for the last, at minimum, 7 years, assuming that you are dating Winston as joining Overwatch shortly before it fell. But really, Winston probably joined Overwatch, as I've explained in my timeline video from a good couple of years ago now. Winston probably joined Overwatch a little bit earlier than that even, certainly before Tracer. You can see more of my theories on that in my Lawbite series, which I've linked below, which is going to be restarting again early next week. But however long Winston has been with Overwatch and has been on Earth for, Hammond, if he did escape successfully, would have been around for that amount of time. So where has he been and what's he been up to? Surely Winston is a fairly well-known genetically enhanced gorilla on Earth due to his involvement with Overwatch. One would assume that if a second one of those was running around, someone would have seen it, unless they were sort of in hiding or something like that. So that's all we know to start with about Hammond. That's a bit of my speculation. There are some questions if you want Hammond to have survived and got away from the moon with Winston as to what he's been up to. It's similar questions with Dr. Harold Winston, to be honest. We know that Dr. Harold Winston's spacesuit is not there. We know that he went out to an airlock, asked for help, and then perhaps, who knows, was he heard from again like the other scientists? We know that scientists died on the lunar colony when the gorillas overthrew them. So really, Hammond's fate, like Dr. Harold Winston's fate, is just completely unknown to us. There is room, if the Overwatch team wanted to put them into the story and start expanding that again. However, as Hero 28 speculation is rife once more with sort of hints and things, as I said, Doomfist accidentally leaked late last June in some openly visible build notes for the Summer Games, which showed Summer Games and Doomfist as being the upcoming patch or the build version for Overwatch. Now, could Hammond be anything to do with Hero 28? It's possible. I'm not entirely sure whether he's going to be Hero 28. Here's a few thoughts to think about. The Overwatch team have mentioned multiple times that they like characters to have distinctive silhouettes. That you need to be able to have a distinctive profile or silhouette so that you can easily recognise a hero from each other if you're seeing them move. So Hammond is another maybe chimpanzee, we're guessing. He's smaller than the Winston. How small would he be? What would his kit be? How would you design him so that he was visually distinct if he was a chimpanzee from a Winston or something small running around like a Torbjorn? Now, of course, there have been many interesting ideas visually and otherwise for Hammond's design for the last year since Horizon was released. So here's my main thought on this. Now, I feel that the Overwatch story is perhaps poised on some kind of kick forward, some kind of expansion. Now, Hammond, of course, like the idea of Jetpack Cat, is popular. Everyone loves the thought of another animal type hero. Hammond's story, what would it tell us? Well, it would tell us more about Winston and the moon. We've already got some of that through Horizon, the level, and we've already got some of that through Winston. What else could Hammond tell us about? Maybe, just maybe, a little bit more about Liu Cheng Interstellar, the company who was responsible for and worked with Horizon. There have been actually other map updates recently around Liu Cheng Interstellar. This doesn't confirm Hammond or anything, but it does sort of tie in the idea that maybe something about the moon base is going to come back into the story. Take, for example, this billboard in Lijiang Tower Night Market. The subtle change to the billboard in the level basically said Liu Cheng Interstellar attempts to start new aerospace projects. Communications attempts with Horizon Lunar Colony attempted as well, and current Liu Cheng CEO of Group, depending on the context of the translation, was perhaps once a moon-based scientist. Now, as I said, it's kind of new hero time. Doomfist was on the PTR in July, early last year in 2017. We could expect perhaps some teasers late in June, early July for a new hero coming up. So this kind of stuff happening, these changes to Horizon were coming anyway. Little tweaks for Hammond lore or additional story are always interesting. But what about the Lijiang Tower changes? The odds of it being Hammond, it's possible, but I think it just could be somewhat odd based on the fact of what would his kit do, where would he fit in the story, and how would he actually move the story forwards on his own if he was a hero. A lot of his backstory already dovetails with that of Winston. However, here's my final thought. What if Hammond is a way of introducing another new hero? Soldiers, adventurers, scientists and oddities has always been one of the catchphrases of Overwatch. Now, we certainly had the first three. If you count Orisa as an oddity, perhaps she could fulfill the fourth in that category. But remember, of course, that for Orisa's launch, we then had a lot of talk about Ify and her story before her creation Orisa was unveiled. So let's say that Hammond, if he did get to Earth, if he has found a way of either being in hiding or living safely for the last maybe 7+ minimum years, but maybe more likely 9 or 10, who is he found working with, or what? And could that be our next hero? And then how could that next hero perhaps drive the story onwards? Be very interesting to find out. I'd love to hear your theories and thoughts in the comments below. Do let me know. Cheers for tuning in. If you like this video, do throw a like, subscribe, comment below with all your theories. I really appreciate hearing what you all think. Love talking about them as much as possible. Do check out all of my other Overwatch lore interactions and voice lines. Thanks to my patrons on Patreon who make these and other videos possible. Check out patreon.com/Hammy if you'd like to see how you could support the channel from just $1, £1, or €1 a month. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammy. Take it easy.